something that I want to point out is that it's common for the average person to listen to someone saying the kind of things that you're saying and to jump to the conclusion that everybody who is incarcerated claims to be innocent of the crime, right? So you can expect for people to say stuff like that. But in this case, I mean, every claim that's been made has been substantiated. And not only that, I mean, been substantiated by the court's own documents. So just wanted to put that out there for anybody who was listening.
Exactly. And this is why I've never spoken out, Sean. And I appreciate having you, to give me an opportunity. One, I didn't have anyone that would interview me or would work with me. Two, that if I said I was innocent, no one would believe me because I never had a voice. I didn't. And they're going to say, well, you had a trial, but they doesn't understand. We didn't have a trial. We had a proceeding. Everything was blocked from the jury. Therefore, this is really the first time these documents have been seen by anyone other than the police and myself. And it's the first time any of this has ever been spoken on because it was designed to be that way. No one was supposed to ever.
This call is from a federal prison.
So when I'm saying everything I'm saying, it can be corroborated by these documents.
Man, I am legitimately speechless right now because I've gone over the documents and everything checks out. I've talked to people who were there to actually know what was going on for real, and everything checks out. So I'm telling you, man, like, this is like one of those things, corruption in the legal system that we hear about all the time, but it's like something completely different when you see it actually happening in real time. You know what I mean? And that kind of brings me to this point. So you're going to have people out there who are listening to this interview and they're going to say that even though Knapp is incarcerated for a crime that he didn't commit, Knapp was no angel. He wasn't like completely innocent or anything like that. So what would you say to those people who are saying such things?
What I would say to those people is this: I'm a human being, and I made bad decisions and poor choices, but it doesn't make me a murderer. It doesn't make me a person that could actually say that I'm afraid of that, because you know why? I went to school. I lived in the New Orleans housing project, and what you won't find is that a witness ever said that they identified me crime, or a person that lived in that area or went to the schools that I went to that ever said that Knapp did them anything. So if I'm in the housing project and there's not one shred of evidence that I hurt anyone in that project, if I went to school and I went anywhere around the city and no one that I know said I harmed them, or is there anyone who said I witnessed Knapp doing that? Remember, these charges that I'm in here for, there's no witness saying they saw me anywhere, but I'm still sitting in prison. And I understand that people love a lie. And, this is really the American way of life. We all lie. We lie to girls. We lie to our wives. We tell lies. But I want everybody to understand this. If the government went this far to get a conviction, to pull off an elaborate scheme like this lets you know what you've been hearing was all told. It was all a lie.
All right, so Mr. Elwood, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview, because I know it's been like a year that we've been working on this, and after that year, we're finally able to conclude it. So I wasn't going to bring this up at first. I was actually hesitant to do it, but I got to ask you this. I got to ask you.
All right.
The armored truck. I got to ask you about that.
Wow. Okay, it's been a long time even giving it any thought, I really, appreciate what you brothers did and working with me all this time, because it's been a hell of a task, especially with the COVID interfering with everything. So thank y'all for being patient and taking the time out to do it. Oh man, when you speak on that armored truck, and remembering what the circumstances that I went through concerning that truck, I'd like to really just start by trying to make sure that everybody understands.
This call is from a federal prison.
That situation concerning the armored truck was not a strategy wars, especially from the beginning. The creation of that armored truck, it really derived from me getting shot in April of 1989 on Carrollton Avenue and Washington Avenue at the intersection with a red light, right close to Xavier University. I was actually leaving a little party with the fellas. Glenn and Danielle had actually got married early in that afternoon, and it was kind of like a private little wedding. So some of his immediate friends was there. So the rest of the guys, we got together that night. They had food and drinks and all that. We was at Fresh Incorporated Body Shop that's located on Elwood, at a block off of Carrollton. So we were there until about maybe 2 in the morning. And as I was leaving the body shop that morning, I was being followed. I was unaware at the time, but I was being followed by a couple of, I think it was about 4 guys in a dark colored vehicle. And when I got to the red light, I realized that they switched lanes and put their bright lights on, and that drew my attention. And I actually sped off at the time, and gunshots started firing. Right at that point, when you cross over Washington Avenue, you get on to Interstate 10. I think it's the Expressway, Carrollton Avenue, and Pontchartrain Expressway when you're heading towards the Superdome. But I was actually hit 3 times at that time, but I pulled over and started firing weapons. And I had another guy in the car with me by the name of Daniel Willis. He never fired a gun in his life, but I told him what to do, and he started firing back, and that caused them to actually really retreat from the vehicle, to sort of running to get away from the gunfire that they were under. But I actually pulled off from that point and drove to Charity Hospital on my own, being followed by the police, but I wasn't going to stop for them. I wanted to make sure I made it to the hospital and, see what my condition was. I was hitting the left arm, stomach, and then the right hip. But while I was in Charity Hospital, my eyes opened up to the circumstance that was concerning that shooting there. And it made me realize that with the amount of money that was on my head, different people was trying to collect that money. Even some people I would have never thought would try, as well as people that I didn't even know was trying to collect the money. So I had to come up with some new ideas on, what I was going to do to either save my life, and even, I had a little young son. He wasn't even 2 years old at that time. So I had to, give a lot of thought in that 3 weeks I was in the hospital on how I was going to go about, living the rest of my life and using a different strategy than what I was using, because I was more focused on my enemies and not everything else that was coming along with having enemies. So right after I got out the hospital, I contacted a guy by the name of Louis Gibb. His nickname is Booney. And, he was running Fresh Incorporated Body Shop, and I got with him to ask him what was the best strategy to do to come up with something to give me some more protection with the vehicles. So he told me he would look into a few things and see what he can come up with. And maybe about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that, he called me up and told me to come by the shop. He introduced me to his best body man, which his name was Raphael. He advised me what he could do with the truck. And what he did was told me that he could change the glass to plexiglass that, as well as put 40-inch steel around the whole cab of the truck, around the fenders, the hood, and in the roof of the truck, wherein it wouldn't be able to be fired upon with any penetration by handguns or AK-47s. And but the tailgate of the truck would still remain the same, but the motor and fender and everything else in the cab would be protected. So I looked at that and said, well, okay, that would be something that I was interested in. So therefore, after that, I invested my money in trying to stay alive and getting the truck modified, along with even, adding to my arsenal of weapons, because I had not only had to protect my life, I also had to make sure that nothing would happen to my little son. So I'm saying that to say that, that Ford F-150 was an anomaly, to say the least. But it was a well-kept secret. And, I did not, talk about that around anybody, other than the people that was members of that shop, worked there and worked on that truck, actually knew anything about that truck. I didn't want none of my enemies to know what I was doing. Your knowledge is your power, as far as I'm concerned. That's the way you live life. The things that you know, that's half the battle right there. So I also didn't want the New Orleans police harassing me and bothering me if they knew about that truck was modified to that condition. Even though that wasn't against the law to have that done, I still didn't want the constant harassment, dealing with them. The public became aware of that truck when I got arrested on July 12, 1991. Being a drug dealer and being, under a lot of scrutiny by the New Orleans Police Department for drug activity, police, when I was arrested in LaPlace, the local police contacted them and said, well, Nap be carrying drugs in different compartments in that truck, so check the truck real good to see if it have compartments. And they were more concerned about the weight of the truck. They said the truck seemed extremely heavy, the doors are real heavy. We think it might be something in it, so they started dismantling the truck. And that's when it was first discovered. And this joker got a armored truck. This truck is bulletproof. It's not it's not drugs in it. It's just been modified to be armored, So with that being in the newspaper and the police department becoming aware of it at that time, that's when the public became aware of it. So it's been a lot of the folklore stories about that truck, man. And I've heard a few being in jail by guys that come from the city in that jail. I've actually heard stories like, oh man, they said they was shooting at you and the bullets was ricocheting off of that. You jumped out of the truck after they were shooting and started shooting back. None of those stories are true. I've never been fired upon in that truck. That truck has never took gunfire other than when it was being modified to test it and then repainted up and fixed up. And I also heard stories that my homeboy, one of my roundaways, Master P, which I always called him Little Percy, they were saying that he got the concept of the tank from the actual truck. I don't know that to be true. I really believe that that's Master P's own idea. But once that truck was actually discovered and the public knew about it, it became like a symbol of the Calliope Project. That's how these guys are actually operating from that Calliope Project. But basically, that's the story on the Calliope Project. On the truck in part of the Calliope Project. But there's no crimes committed in that truck. Nobody was ever injured in it by utilizing that truck, or nobody ever fired upon that truck in the streets. That's pretty much it on that truck.
And before we wrap it up, I got to bring up this point about it also. Now, the decorations that was on it, because I know people are going to have questions about that, like the spray painting. It was said to have the word homicide and villain in black on one side. So what do you want people to know about that?
Okay. Well, I was saying I was closely affiliated with the guys at Fresh Incorporated. Before that truck was painted with that description, I was shot. That truck was burgundy and gold, had the whole interior modified to match the outside spray painting of the truck. When it went back to being black, the word villain in black, that title, I was a big NWA fan, to be honest. I used to like Rent, and I used to love him saying, the color, the villains in black. So that's where I got the actual term and put it on the side of the truck.
This call is from a federal prison.
But the word homicide on it was just something I did to really bring attention to the spray paint job that was being done at Fresh Incorporated Body Shop. Back when I was home, a lot of guys really liked it, modifications to vehicles and spray paint on motorcycles and on cars. So I was kind of really trying to help them advertise that they had that type of work going on at that shop. But no, it wasn't. I'm way more secretive than that when it comes down to things I do, and I know I ain't advertising that the truck was used to do any type of murders or anything in it. In fact, anybody that actually knows me from the Calliope Project know that I really more or less operated out of a station wagon. They used to call it the battle wagon, not that truck. So, when they look at that, those words on there, it was more symbols of the spray paint, the actual customized paint jobs that they do at Fresh Incorporated.